Okay, we're live on YouTube. Let's go live on TikTok. There we are. All right, happy Monday, everybody. This is kind of my weekly political discussion on the Pastor Paul, the TikTok pastor page. Sorry to be looking out over you there. I check on my monitor back here to make sure everything's working okay on YouTube, and it looks like it is. And here on TikTok. And so, yeah, if you're watching on YouTube or TikTok, let me know you're here. Tell me where you're from, and let's just chat about what's going on in the world. Kind of this noontime on Monday. I usually try just to, I call it the WTH, week that happened. And so we talk about current events. And so we have inauguration week, that we're going to inaugurate a new president. 4 years ago, I remember sitting in horror watching the most incredibly terrible, dark inauguration speech I'd ever heard in my life. And then hearing people around me saying, wasn't that an amazing speech? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a terrible speech from a terrible man. And surely it's turned out to be as catastrophic as I thought it was going to be. But it's so we're happy today. We didn't see violence over the weekend that we thought we might see, and some other things. So I'm going to talk some about MLK Day today. I'm going to talk about like what I think Jesus' view of the Capitol breach on January 6th would be. One of my posts this week that I had some Christian people telling me, like, aren't you concerned non-Christian people love your post? Doesn't that tell you that you're wrong? And talk about those things. So if you're going to stick with me and you're here, I really appreciate it. Tell me where you're from. And somebody tell me the sound is okay. And you guys on YouTube as well. And we'll do some talking today. But yeah, just ask God to bless our time together today. I am Pastor Paul, the TikTok pastor. Something's happened on TikTok. TikTok is really weird, guys. I got real close to 25,000 followers. Thank you for telling me the sound is great. I appreciate that, Matt. I got real close to 25,000 followers, and then like everything stopped. Like nobody was liking any of my posts. Hi, Long Beach, California. Nice place. Glad you're here. Nobody was hearing, any of my posts. I wasn't getting any likes. And I was getting depressed, and my wife was like, stop. And then, and then it just takes off again, and it's really weird. And so in the last 48 hours, I've added about 17,000 followers, and I have no idea why. I don't think my posts were any better or worse than any other time, but man, it just means so much to me. So let's talk about the week that happened and what's coming up in current events. Love to see your questions. But one of the questions I answered over the weekend on a post, hi, San Jose, thank you for the compliment on my videos. Let me know where you're from, guys, if you're here. You guys on YouTube as well. I see some of you are coming in and joining on YouTube. That's YouTube, that's TikTok. I got to remember. Hi, Impayan, yeah. So I was asked a question of what I thought Jesus would think about January 6th. And that was a really poignant question to me, because I've done some posts about just how angry and disturbed I am that Christian pastors are still trying to justify what happened on January 6th. Hi, North Carolina. Good to see you today. Long Island, New York. Love it. And I think it's absolutely a sin for a Christian leader to try to justify it. And here's where I get my biblical basis for that. There were people around Jesus called the Zealots. They were really common when he was on earth. Because remember, when Jesus was living in Israel, when he was alive in the first century, and again, please let me know where you're joining from. If you're here, I'd love to see where you're from. You guys on YouTube as well, on the Nonpartisan Evangelical channel. The Zealots, Israel had been conquered by the Roman Empire. The Roman government had put itself in charge of Israel. Lady Lake, Florida. What a cool sounding place. Norfolk, Virginia. I know that's a beautiful place. Miami, Tucson, Houston, Texas. Another Houston, Texas. You guys are awesome. Thanks for joining. St. Augustine, Florida. So there was a group of Jewish people. Hi, SoCal. And thank you for sharing my podcast. Yeah, please follow and share. Blytheville, Arkansas. Now I'm from Southern Missouri. I was born in Kansas City, grew up around the Springfield area, lived a lot of other places too, but I know Southwestern Missouri well. Don't know exactly where Blytheville, Arkansas, but I have relatives in Rogers, Arkansas. I have relatives that went to the University of Arkansas, so I know that place. Florida, how are you? What did I see? The Hamptons? Wow, you're rich, huh? Chicago, Kansas City, Bakersfield. Love Bakersfield. One of my best friends in the world is from Bakersfield, California. Wow, let me see that. What does that say? Rainoni? Oh my gosh, let me scroll back down here. Sorry, I interrupted my own story. I just wanted to say thank you. I'm reconnecting with family because of a video of yours I shared. Wow, could you send me a direct message on that? I would love to hear that story and maybe even do a duet with you or something, because that's what I want to see happen. Hollywood, Maryland, Las Vegas, Nevada, Toronto, Canada. We love you, Toronto. Boulder Creek, California. Ooh, I don't know where that is either. Tampa. So these zealots, and thank you guys for telling me where you're from. I'm cleaning house for the rich people in the Hamptons. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So the zealots believed that if they could create violence and chaos, they could overthrow the Roman government and make Israel great again. And they believed, along with many of the religious leaders of the day, that that was God's number one priority, was to restore Israel as the economic and military power of the world. And because of that, they did a whole lot of bad things in that pursuit. And the thing I say this, if Jesus would have anyway espoused what happened on January 6th, or sort of the Tea Party movement, or some of the things that we do as Christian right-wingers. My wedding ring just fell off. I hope it's still down there somewhere. He could have easily made that apparent. And here's how Jesus could have done that. All he would have to say, thank you for sharing the live down there. All he would have had to do, all the Bible needed to do, was have one verse where Jesus said, I embrace, I bless you, Joe the Zealot. Go do your work to overthrow the terrible Roman government. But instead, Jesus said things like, pay your taxes to Caesar, which was a huge, huge issue. It was the socialism boogeyman word of the day. Paying taxes to Caesar was so corrupt and horrible. Pick up your ring, somebody said. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to leave my wedding ring on the floor. My wife would get mad if I'm looking unmarried. Okay, let me get it. Sorry, everybody, for that interruption. All he would have had to say is, I bless you, Joe the Zealot. But instead he said, pay taxes to Caesar, which was a huge violation of his cultural covenant. And he said, if a Roman soldier forces you to, there's this verse where he says, if someone forces you to go a mile, go two. And he was referring to the fact that the law was a Roman soldier could force anyone to carry their gear for 1 mile. They were not allowed to go longer than a mile. And what the Jews would do is they would take that gear, and when they went a mile, they would throw it on the ground and they would spit and they would say, there, you bastard, you suck, kind of thing. We're victims, and we're going to be angry, and we're going to show you how terrible you are. But instead, Jesus said, if they force you to go a mile, here's how you overcome that victimization. You go two. You say, your law to try to victimize me, I refuse to be a victim of that law. So what we see in Christianity today are a bunch of Christians who not only have chosen to be victims, but I believe actually love acting like victims. And when you act like a victim in your life for a long time, you go to a dark place, and people can manipulate you with terms of justice. I had a conversation with a wonderful lady the other day, and she had been denied some access to Facebook. And she said, this is how Hitler took over, taking away people's voice. And I said, no, dear, that's not how Hitler took over at all. Now, Hitler did that after he had taken over. But instead, how Hitler and Mussolini came to power was that they wrote these crazy manifestos. They got a very fervent following, and they both were in environments where people felt victimized. In Germany, they had been blamed for World War I, had to pay these terrible reparations. Their economy was in the tank, and so they were a victimized people. And all of a sudden, this crazy man comes along with this fervent following, and he says, You're not bad, you're good. In fact, you're the best people in the whole world. And all of the people around you who don't look like you are evil and out to get you. And he was able to mobilize a group of people. And in doing that, what he did is he got these guys called the brown shirts to wreak havoc and create chaos. And again and again and again, what would be said is, okay, if we put Hitler into this position, the chaos will stop and we can, get back to marginalizing him in the government system. Lindsey Graham this last week said exactly the same thing. If the Senate takes up the impeachment trial, it will create an opportunity for violence. Lindsey Graham, in my book, was saying the exact same thing that German government officials were saying about Adolf Hitler. Now, I'm not saying Trump is Hitler, but I'm saying the conditions are the same. Victimized people, chaos being created. And if you appease that chaos, or if you subvert your government process to try to stop that chaos because you're afraid, you then set up somebody like Trump to continue to be empowered to do what he does. And the people who create chaos can start saying, we're making a difference. So what was so great about January 6th, and this, Mike Pence is a man I've been very critical of, but I'm so thankful that he went ahead and carried out the electoral process, and our elected officials, even under the threat of other congressional representatives being a life danger to them, sat in that room and finished the process. Because that's how you combat thuggery and chaos in a culture. And so I told my dear friend, no, it was the chaos and the thugs that and then the appeasement of people afraid of the chaos and the thugs that put Hitler in power. Let's not confuse that with Facebook saying, hey, you don't get to spread rumors about Antifa breaking into the Capitol and get away with it. So I think we're doing pretty well. Here, somebody says, yes, Pence did one good thing in 4 years. I agree. I think Mike Pence has been a massive enabler and shield for the president, and he will regret that, I believe, not by physical violence, but by forever having that a mark on his professional career. So yeah, that's what's really important in the season. And so what's absolutely wonderful this week is we're going to see again our transfer of power occur in America. Now, sick to the end, Donald Trump will not be there for the inauguration, and maybe that's good, but I'm pleased to hear that Mike Pence will be there, because it's really important that we have our peaceful transfer of power in America. So here's something that needs to happen. The President Joe Biden, after Wednesday, is going to do a flurry of executive orders to roll back a bunch of things that Donald Trump did. And I think that's going to be really important. Donald Trump is going to be president. You don't know anything. We're in the wall right now with China. We're in the wall right now with China. Donald Trump is going to be president. Okay, Todd Book, you're nutso. Come out of it. Don't be deep in this right-wing media anymore. It's making you believe crazy, cracky things. Crazy things. I mean, not just like off things, but crazy things. And it's been wrong again and again and again. How many people told me that Congress was going to overturn the Electoral College on January 6th? At what point does getting it wrong mean you're no longer a prophet? QAnon is not good for you. Walk away from it. It's terrible and it's wrong, and it's gotten everything wrong. Everything. There was not a pedophilia ring in the basement of a pizza parlor. Hillary Clinton was not put in prison by the end of 2017 or the end of 2018 or the end of 2019. She's still not in Guantanamo prison. John F. Kennedy Jr. is not alive. John McCain is not alive and in prison in Guantanamo. It's totally wrong, and it's very bad for you. And I pray that you will be free from listening to conspiracy media and right-wing media. Yeah, it's really, really sick. And it makes me really angry to see people like you captured and trapped by it. Come out of it. Yeah, if I hear one more time, this is all part of his plan. It's just, that's crazy, guys. It's crazy. What is, let's see, what is the plan of right-wing media? So here's the number one plan of right-wing media, like Rush Limbaugh, is they want to make money. They want to make money, and they make a lot of money off of peddling fear to fearful, victimized people and telling them these people are coming to get you. So mostly they're just profit mongering people. Now, there are some ideologues in there. There are some that are end times, people trying to usher in the end times. Now, listen, Judas tried to do the same thing. The reason that we're told in some of the non-canonical scripture out there that Judas sold Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, or sold turned him over for 30 pieces of silver, is Judas believed Jesus was going to overthrow the Roman government. Judas may have in fact been a zealot, and what he wanted, and he was very upset that Jesus wasn't overthrowing the government like he believed he was going to. So he thought by turning Jesus over to the system, it would force Jesus into action, and that Jesus would then overthrow the Roman government. Then when he realized that wasn't going to happen, he realized the mistake that he had made and went and killed himself. Judas was a conspiracy theorist, and it caused him to do terrible, terrible things. And so we have a lot of people out there who believe they can force revelation to happen by doing crazy things like invading the Capitol and saying Donald Trump is still going to be president. And when you're deep into it, there's no amount of truth that can break you out of that mindset. So it's very, very sad. What about folks who say being gay is immoral and cite Leviticus? Well, first off, you can never cite Old Testament passages for these things because Jesus fulfilled the covenant of the Old Testament. And so we're not under that law anymore. I have a lot of videos on that. I don't think I want to go deeply into that today. Just let me say, everybody's beautiful as they are. We walk through those issues in relationship, but I'm not ever going to sit here and tell a gay person you're not going to heaven, or your love is invalid, or what you feel is invalid. It's cruel and it's criminal. And I think Christians need to realize that we may have directly led to suicides of a whole lot of people because of our shame and condemnation. So that's probably all I'm going to go into that today, just because I have some other places to go. James is saying on YouTube, if people understood history and had the mind of Christ, no one would continue to defend Trump or those who have enabled him. It brings me back to my point that I was going to make about Joe Biden. Biden's going to do a whole bunch of executive orders to try to roll back Trump policies here. And I'm going to applaud that. I think that has to be done, because Trump did a whole lot of terrible things. But one of the things I think that needs to happen in the next 2 years, while the Democrats have control of both houses of Congress and the executive branch, is we need to retool the executive branch of government, and the position of president. Because one thing the last 4 years have showed us above all else is that if an amoral person gets in that position, the rules are not there to constrain that person. And that's what I say about Donald Trump. He's not immoral, he's amoral. He just has no morals. He will be whatever he needs to be to benefit himself. And so I think use the executive orders to roll back the really heinous things the president has done, and just wait until you see the pardons over the next 48 hours. It's going to be awful. I think the president will do really dark, horrible things on the way out here. By the way, he will not be president on the 21st, just letting you QAnoners know. But Biden, while he has control of both houses of Congress, needs to work on legislation to curtail the presidency, because Trump has done us a favor, because he was an amoral man that did really horrible things and was not constrained by the Constitution or law in doing these things. The good news about Trump is he was not smart enough to really forever ruin us. But someday we could get somebody like Trump that's amoral and a brilliant administrator, which Adolf Hitler was, and that person could do real damage. So Democrats, one of the big things you need to do over the next 2 years, because you don't know you're going to control the House or the Senate after the midterms. So in the next 2 years, you've got to revamp the presidency legislatively. We've got to change the law to say the things that Donald Trump did, and even claiming to be able to pardon himself, which is going to be interesting to see if he decides to pardon himself and pardon his kids over the next 2 days. But we've got to say, no, we're going to have to put law to constrain the presidency, because the only constraint we now know in the past has been the morality of the people in the office. And when you have an amoral person like we've had the last 4 years, we see what happens. How do you feel about expanding SCOTUS to say 11? I think it's worth discussing. And I think Pete Buttigieg had a really great idea that we ought to look at. And that was the idea of having, and I may not get this totally right, but I love the idea of getting some permanent members of the Supreme Court and then some rotating members of the Supreme Court. So you have political appointees in the permanent positions. And again, I may be getting some of this wrong, but and then kind of they appoint others, or however. It was just a really brilliant idea. Go read Pete Buttigieg's idea on this. And Buttigieg is going to be the transportation secretary and a guy I think could make a great president one day. And his idea was have some permanent members of the courts who are political appointees, and then others that are rotating positions that are sort of appointed in a nonpartisan way, so that we don't get a fixed court for the rest of history. And certainly the Constitution allows for that, or has room for that. And I think that's something that really ought to be seriously considered. Bipartisan. Right now, we need to sit down and think about, okay, what are the things that Donald Trump exposed that are flaws in our system that we need to fix? Because if another Donald Trump who is amoral, and somebody like Donald Trump, but is actually smart and good at administration, could really, really harm our country for the future. So we need to fix those things. And so I do really love Buttigieg's idea on the Supreme Court. Let me talk about one other thing today. And thank you guys for your questions. Keep them coming. You guys on YouTube as well. Also, I love it when you let me know where you're joining from. Beige says Biden administration has so much to do in the next 2 years. It's true. What do you say to people who think Trump did more for Israel than any other president? Could be. I think the idea that America will be blessed if we give Israel a ton of money and then have no constraints on what they do, we never criticize them, is not biblical. It's silly and is really a misplaced belief system. So I don't think God cares nearly as much about the embassy being moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem as we do. And I think giving unfettered support to the nation of Israel and saying that's supporting Abraham, like the Bible says, and you'll be blessed if you do that, is just a misinterpretation of the Bible. I don't think it's a command of people. So so the one thing I'm really happy about in the Donald Trump era is he didn't get us into any new wars. We avoided war with Iran, which I thought was very, very much a possibility. And so I'll give him a hand for that. I don't know if he was the cause of that or somebody else, but the fact that we went 4 years without getting into another war, I applaud that we have some Arab nations that are recognizing Israel. That's awesome. Let's start to get on with peace, and let's quit thinking that blowing up the Middle East fixes things. Now, I don't love that, Trump killed General Soleimani. Soleimani may be a very bad guy, but I just think the days when we do assassinations and then celebrate it has got to come to an end, because every time we do that, the Middle Eastern people say, wow, the United States is as bad as everybody's been telling us they are. So I wish we would pull back from our belief that our military makes us right and brings righteousness throughout the world, because that hasn't been the case all the time. So yeah. Let me have a drink there. I do want to say one thing, guys. I see a lot of you asking questions and saying things. James says on YouTube, expanding the Supreme Court addresses a lot of issues. Currently, the SC can't take up many cases they should, because they simply don't have enough staff to do it. Wow. Practicality. I love it. I love it. I want to show you guys this. This is a gift from my wife 4 years ago, and I think it's probably backwards on the screen. But it's Letter from Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Today, if you didn't know, it's the MLK holiday. And I want to read you a little section from this that changed my life on New Year's Day 2017. Dr. King writes, I must confess that over the last few years, I've been gravely disappointed in the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride toward freedom is not the white citizen's counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with your goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically feels that he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the myth of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient season. Now listen to this. He finishes with this. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. Let me read this one part again. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. I read this on New Year's Day, 2017, and my life was changed forever. Sorry, I feel like I'm going to sneeze and I'm trying not to sneeze. I read that and I said to myself, Paul, you've got to change. You've got to change. Your voice has to start speaking out about justice and equality for our communities of color. And you have to sit down and hear their stories and hear it without being defensive. Let me tell you something. Justice with our communities of color does not mean we say, okay, you can move into my neighborhood and your kids can go to our schools as long as you try your best to look and think and sound like us. It's saying, my God, what have we done for hundreds of years? Here's the beauty of the Trump era in America. Our hearts have been exposed. And it's been exposed to be very dark. And when I say our, I'm really talking to my people, the white Christian evangelicals. Our heart is very dark in the area of race. The idea of nationalism and American exceptionalism and white supremacy has been sewn into the very fabric of our belief systems. We even made pictures of Jesus being white. The Roman Catholic Church had pictures commissioned, one of the Pope's sons to be the model for Jesus. And forevermore, that picture of Jesus has been the most well-known picture of Jesus, a white man, and he was not a white man. White Jesus has taken us way off course from loving our brothers and sisters. And then teaching about the exclusivity of those who have said a sinner's prayer and our ability to call ourselves us and others them, when the Bible clearly says that's not the way to live, is amazing. I made some posts this last couple of weeks where I told people from the LGBTQIA plus community that I affirmed them and loved them and God loved them. And some other things along the way. And so many of you have said things like, I'm an agnostic, but I love your post, or I'm an atheist and I quit going to church a long time, or I'm an ex-evangelical, but I love what you have to say. And I had somebody stitch my video. And he said a whole lot of things that were his arguments on why what I said was wrong, which is great. I love those arguments. But then he said a really interesting thing. He said, if you look in the comments, you would see that most of the comments are from atheists and agnostics, and that should prove to Pastor Paul that what he's saying is wrong. His thesis on that statement was that if non-Christians agree with what you're saying, it's proof that your theology is bad. So I just did a post this morning saying, they said the exact same things about Jesus. If those sinners love you, how can you be good? So let me tell you something. marginalized people out there. It's time for us to speak up and not to try to do charity. Like I said in the one video I did this week, a backpack drive around school time doesn't get it. That's not showing your love for those that we're supposed to bring resource to when they don't have resources. That's white savior charity. And we love that in the church because it really doesn't require anything but some of our money. And we don't even have to give a large portion of it, just a little bit of money. And then we feel like, check, done my caring for the poor. Caring for the foreigner, I'm going to ignore as in the Bible. And caring for the marginalized, I don't have to worry about because God hates homosexuals as much as I do. So that's white evangelical Christianity in America today, and what on January 1st, 2017, letter from Birmingham jail told me, Paul, you cannot be a part of this anymore. You have to speak out and speak up. All right, guys, glad you're with me. I just have I'm going to go just a few more minutes. I got on a little late. If you have any more questions on YouTube or TikTok, go ahead and share them. I'll be glad to try to answer. Please make sure you're following me. Somebody says, isn't Jesus brown? He's from Jerusalem. He actually was born in Bethlehem and was from Nazareth, but yes, he was not a white man. I really love how lighthearted and joyful you are and able to keep this going. Yeah. I've been attacked by Christians enough times now that it gets to me sometimes. It gets to me and I have to just brush it off. But I used a song today for a post that had, it's not the most pure lyrics and it has curse words in it. And somebody said, oh, I love that you're using this song. And so I sort of feel like when we throw a cuss word in from time to time, it drives religious demons away from us. So yeah. I see something about the ignorance of somebody making a comment. So guys, I love it when you defend me, but please don't feel you have to. There are going to be angry Christians come on here and say things, and it says it's nice that you can just brush that off. So I don't actually just brush it off, but I've learned healthy processes where I got to wipe myself down from this. I just got dinged by somebody saying something ugly, so I got to wipe myself down. Jesus in the Bible used to get away and pray all night, and I think he was just recentering himself. Oh, thank you for sharing the website there, Paige, npepodcast.com. npepodcast.com is my website. If you go there, hit the events page, it'll tell you about my Saturday Bible chat, about my live show I do with my wife on Saturday mornings, and about our Sunday spiritual gatherings. Also, I have a ton of podcasts and blogs and cool stuff there, my YouTube channel. So if you would follow me here on TikTok, I would love it. And a lot of you are right now. It's crazy. I don't know why sometimes TikTok just takes off and we start growing. Smoke says, I'm going to attend. Great. Beige says Patreon. You're my new Patreon member, Beige. Yeah. If you want to support financially, of course you can give right here on TikTok to these lives. But I do have a Patreon community where we have a private Facebook group. So go to that website, npepodcast.com, click on the Patreon button in the upper right-hand corner, and you can help support my message financially. And thank you, whoever gave, man, that's really cool. That disco ball, how does that happen on TikTok? You YouTube guys aren't seeing that, but that was really cool. Disco ball, I love it. Do people attack or say rude things to your wife also? They really don't on TikTok. Most of them just say how good looking she is, which she is, and I love that. But when she was mayor of our city, people would say horrible things, and a lot of times the horrible things said were Christians. Alarka Boy says, get his book, Joseph Comes to Town. Wow, you guys are doing all my commercials today. Thank you. This is my book for anyone interested. Joseph Comes to Town. When the religious right, sorry, I keep needing to sneeze. Where did it go? When the religious right becomes religiously wrong. Again, there's a tab on my website, npepodcast.com. You can see it, buy it on Amazon. It's my imagination of what Jesus would say to the evangelical church if he were on earth in the flesh in America today. And it's a really good book. I love it. Thank you for those that are sending hearts and bags and disco balls and all those things. You guys are amazing. Yeah, somebody's telling I'm in Fresno, California. Just got to your website for the first time. Glad someone posted it. We as Black people have been so wounded under police attack, but our country under attack also. Thank you. Who said that? Lady Shofar. Can I just truly say to our people of color, how do I send real money on this app? I really don't know. I think there's some way you can add money to your account, and then during the lives you can like send money. I actually don't really know how to do it. IMP94 says, I didn't know you were in Fresno. I live in Kings County. All right, Kings County. David Valadeo, your representative down there, and Jim Costa is another one. Both of them voted for impeachment, but Valadeo's one of 10 Republicans, the only one in California that prayed for impeachment. So, wow, thank you guys for everything. Lady Shofar says you buy coins and click the present. So yeah, guys, I'm sorry. I don't know how to tell you to do that. And trust me, I don't ever want to be on here begging you for money. We're really well taken care of. We are trying to grow this thing. I do want it to become a place where I make enough money to take care of my wife and kids and all of those things. God has been so faithful to us. So if you want to give something, you can. And I want to tell you, this is a for-profit ministry, not a not-for-profit. And that's really important to us because we want to pay taxes. We want to help fund roads, and we want to help fund schools. And also it gives me the right to say whatever I want. I don't want to be in violation of not-for-profit laws. So I can't give you a tax deduction when you help, but I would tell you, if you join the Patreon community, $5.99 a month level gives you access to my audiobook, the audiobook series version of my book. And access to our private MPE Facebook group, where I say things on there I won't say anywhere else. $12.99 a month gets you an autographed copy of my book that I'll send out to you. $26.99 a month gets you in drawings for prizes every quarter and some other cool things and some seminars we have coming up. My hair's a mess today. And then if you would love to meet one-on-one, $100 a month would get you a monthly one-on-one with me. So you can sign up at Patreon at the $100 level, and we'll get a one-on-one Zoom time together. So yeah, so I do want to go back to what I was saying to, I think it was Lady Shofar. My heart breaks every time I think about how ignorant I've been about race relations in my life. And I just can't do anything but apologize. Well, I can get active and start trying to change things. I'm hoping to be part of a meeting where we're going to ask the pastors of our town to start speaking out, start speaking out against the events of January 6th and the mindset of Christians and conspiracy theorist Christians that was right at the center of that, but also understanding the pain of the white privilege that was on display there that day, that I hear from so many of my friends. If that was us, a black face or a brown face or a face that didn't look like the white guys, if that had been us wearing a turban or a Muslim beard or a Sikh beard or I'm sorry, I can't remember the name. I'm so ignorant sometimes, but the outfit that a Muslim woman is wearing, we would have been carried out in body bags. We would not have been helped down the steps like some of the people were on that day at the Capitol. And guys, it's not okay. God does not approve of us being okay with that. White moderates, it's time to speak out. And I believe the opportunity and joy of the season of Donald Trump is we get to see our hearts exposed, and we get to know. In the book of Joshua, Joshua turned to his people and he said, choose this day whom you will serve. And I believe we're in a season where God is saying, you don't get to be on the fence anymore. You don't get to be the white moderate anymore. You have to choose which side of this thing you're on. You have to choose. And we're seeing people go to the really extreme. David Valadeo, a Republican congressman from my friend Kings County down there, he voted for the impeachment of the president. Now, he said, I feel like Nancy Pelosi rushed this vote, and I wish that vote hadn't been rushed so quickly and there had been more due process. But I have no choice but to vote yes, that the president committed a crime in this. And therefore, the only constitutional remedy we have for that is impeachment. And so I had to vote yes. And so you know what the Republican Party of Central California did? They promised that they would never support him in an election again. They came out and made a very public statement that basically saying, we're done with you. And so many Christians are out there telling people you have to be Republican to be a Christian. And here's the Republican Party basically endorsing the president's actions on January 6th, endorsing the actions of the people and saying, if you vote against those actions, you're no longer a Republican. So I'm sorry, Republican Christians, you need to hear that and say, I thought we were the party of law and order. I thought we were the party of the Constitution, but this proves we're not. It proves we're really about power, not about law, not about Constitution. We're about political power. Beige says same thing happened to two Republicans here in Michigan. Clarissa says Bible upside down. Yeah, the president held the Bible upside down, and many Christians believe the Bible upside down. All right, guys, I just have a couple more minutes. Yeti Walker says so many senators said he was evil, then supported him for 4 years. Isn't it true? I've been gaslit, says Kristen, into not saying Christians or church in the broad term by my pastor. Let me tell you, Kristen, how I look at that through the Bible, because I get that a lot. You're broad brushing all Christians. So in the Bible, we see Jesus saying this. He says, oh, Jerusalem, you who killed the prophets, how much I wanted to just gather you up, but now you're going to face the judgment. He said, so did every person in Jerusalem kill a prophet, and therefore it was right for Jesus to broad brush, oh, Jerusalem, you who killed the prophets? No, not every person in Jerusalem killed a prophet. But the mindset, the groupthink of the city was that, oh, if anybody comes and says something that's against our mindset, we murder them in our heart. We refuse to hear them, and then some outright murder. So somebody can say, well, that's not me. But Jesus said, oh, woe, Capernaum. You saw the miracles and you turned away from me anyway. You turned away from goodness and rightness as a community. So on Judgment Day, it's going to be better for Sodom than for you. Did everybody in Capernaum do that? Were there not good people who loved goodness and loved Jesus and loved God in Capernaum? Of course there were. But the spirit of the city, the mindset, in the church world, we call it the principality, but we might call it the groupthink of a city was something that Jesus said, ugh, that's really ugly. And so church, your mindset and groupthink, you may say, well, I'm not a part of that, Paul, but we're all responsible for that groupthink. And we all have to repudiate it and say that is bad, or else we're complicit in allowing it to exist. So when they say you can't broad brush Christians, say, oh, that's interesting. Jesus, he broad brushed people in the Bible quite a bit. Guess he didn't know what you know. Maybe not quite that snarky. All right, a couple more. How do we respond when they say BLM is a terrorist organization? My question is, okay, if that's true, I don't know. Let's set that aside. I don't think that's true, but let's just set it aside. Does that give you a pass from caring about the inequality that's been carried on for 400 years in our country, about the lack of equal economic opportunity to communities of color with whites? Does BLM or Antifa or anybody else being fully evil, and I'm not going to argue that point with you, but even if that's true, does that give you a pass to not care? Because the Bible seems to indicate differently. That's how I approach it. Don't let some false equivalency give you a pass from doing what God commands you to do. We're all looking for reasons to excuse ourselves from reality and truth and hard teaching. So when that happens, when somebody says, hey, we need to care about this racial equality stuff, and somebody says, well, don't you know that BLM is a terrorist organization? They're killing the prophets. That is you who murdered the prophets. That is a murderous heart towards truth in the church. That is a groupthink that we need to come against. How do I talk to people about QAnon conspiracy and the problems in its belief? Just say, hey, I heard this pastor online the other day saying a whole bunch of things that QAnon has prophesied were going to happen that didn't happen. So what is it that makes you believe it's true when the things that they said were going to happen didn't happen? So many QAnon conspiracy theorists truly believed that if they yelled loud enough on January 6th, Mike Pence would overturn the electoral vote, which he could not do. QAnon told them it was going to happen, and Donald Trump agreed, and it did not happen. At what point do you say it didn't happen? Somebody made a great point on my TikTok today. If you're saying God puts everybody into authority, God put Donald Trump into office, and you have to honor him because God put him there, but now they're saying Satan put Joe Biden into power. So did Satan suddenly become greater than God? Did Satan win because Christians weren't smart enough or good looking enough or praying hard enough? Because I know many of them that had huge prayer visuals. So the very easy thing to say to your QAnoner is, hey, you were told that we could make Pence overturn the Electoral College, and it didn't happen. So at what point does QAnon have to be wrong to when you say, oh, I better not believe this anymore? By the way, they probably won't hear you anyway because they're caught in a cult mindset that they have to defend their community at all costs. All right, guys, I got to go. Who, in your opinion, is behind this QAnon? I think the devil, or some guy in his mom's basement who started a pedophilia chat board. That now is where QAnon has come from. When Biden won, this is Yeti Walker, when Biden won, a neighbor said the devil is hiding in plain sight now. So suddenly the devil is bigger than God to be able to put Joe Biden into office. We need a bigger God, Christians. We need a bigger God. All right, guys, I got to go. Let me pray a blessing for you. Thank you for being with me on YouTube and TikTok. I'm Paul, the TikTok pastor. Follow me. And by follow me, I mean follow me on TikTok. I'm not saying let me be your leader. Sign up for my newsletter on my website, npepodcast.com. Subscribe on YouTube. Usually what I do in short form on TikTok, I'll do something in longer form on YouTube. So join me there. All right, guys. God bless the households, the circles, the teams, the businesses of all these people who have joined into this live today on YouTube and TikTok. Bless these platforms to do righteousness and spread messages of righteousness and not conspiracy theories. Yeah. In the name of all that's great from heaven. Amen. Hey, I love you too. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for all your words of encouragement. You guys are amazing. All right. My wife is in the other room. I'm sure she's saying hi to all of you as well. And you guys have an amazing MLK Day. If you get a chance, go online and look up Letter from Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King Jr. and read it. It's a really short read. It's like a pamphlet like this. And it's life-changing stuff. So go read it. And comment on my post. I have a post about it on my TikTok page and on YouTube. And so go read it and comment and let me know what you thought about it. And that would mean an awful lot to me. All right, guys, love you. We'll see you soon. I'm going to stop YouTube first.